All right, guys, welcome back to Tactical Pontoon. And today, I've got a little bit of a treat for you, tip-wise on striker springs. Now, you'll see here. Let me move my beautiful face. Tactical Pontoon Trigger Jedi decals or stickers are available. Come get some. What I have here is a collection of striker springs from various manufacturers. This guy right here is a factory striker spring. This is an aftermarket striker spring. This is something kind of special. Not going to tell you too much about it, except for it's got a lot of lint and whatnot, but it is a striker spring. This is an aftermarket striker spring made by Wolf Gun Springs, and this is also an aftermarket striker spring done by Wolf. Now, all of these, well, most of these are different weights, and they are different lengths. But how can you tell what weight they actually are? That is a question that I've seen come up on different social medias and whatnot. The thing is, this guy right here, you cannot tell by length alone, okay? Because there are some surprises. This guy right here, even though it's longer than this guy right here, this one is lighter than this one. This one right here is heavier than this one. Okay? So you cannot tell just by weight alone. How are you going to tell? Let me show you a way that I'm going to say I came up with. I don't recall finding this anywhere else, but this is how I do it, and it's worked for me very well over time. I have 3 slides here. Each one has a different weight striker spring. Okay? We are going to use a trigger break gauge. This is probably the best use for a trigger break gauge in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of trigger break gauges. I find that if you live and die by this thing, you're missing the point. But we are going to use it to figure out what weight trigger spring these slides have, and it works really well. We're going to start out with this guy right here. This is my test slide, and in my test slide you can see I have a factory striker spring in there. The factory striker springs you will find have a very they're gray. That's pretty much, if you find one that's this gray like this, it's probably factory. Factory is rated at 5.5 pounds. Okay, so how you're going to do that? You're going to turn your gauge on, or if it's a manual gauge, then it's on by default. Okay, what you will do is you'll take your slide. You can have it built up however you want, as long as your striker is in there in place as it would be from the factory. You take your gauge, you grab your striker, and you just slowly pull it back till you hit the striker plate, or the slide plate. Don't go. Once you pull to the end, just stop and let it read. You can see here that it says 5.5 pounds 10 ounces, which is just over 5.5 pounds, which is what this striker spring is rated at. Okay? What you can do to double check is you can take a couple different readings to verify. And yes, I know it is upside down for you guys. I'll turn it back around on this viewing. 5 pounds 11 ounces, just over 5.5 pounds. We'll do it one more time. And this one read a little bit light. That's one thing about trigger gauges. You got to take multiple different readings. And you can see here on the average scale, it's right at 5.5 pounds, 5.7 ounces. Okay, so that right there, you can see right here, this one is a factory striker spring. The one that I put in this slide, we'll delete that, get my gauge back to normal. The one I put in this slide is a 4.5 pound. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to grab the striker lug. We're going to pull slowly back. That can happen. It will slide. So let's try it again. And 4.4 ounces. Again, like I said, you're going to, this is going to get a good, it also pointed, well, I already hit enter, 4.4. So you can see this one's reading a little bit low. 4.4. This is rated as a 4.5 pound spring, and you can see that it's running a little bit low. These springs are built by the thousands. I have hundreds here at the shop, and they're gonna vary by a couple ounces here and there. Okay, so that's that one. This is a 5 pound striker spring that I have installed in this slide. So we're going to do the exact same thing. .10, which it's rated at 5 pounds. It's pretty close. 4.11. And it slipped. Let's delete that. Come back and grab it again. And that one read 4.15, which is right at 5. So it's coming in close to 5 pounds. Like I said, this is a good general way to figure out what your striker spring is rated at. And I found it to work really well over the years. And that's how I do it. If you've got any questions about what spring you've got, that's a good way to do it. Okay? So like a car dyno, you know, I'm a car guy. Like a car dyno, this is going to give you an idea of what the change is. It's always good to have some factory parts around, okay? It's good to have some factory parts around, because what you can do is you can use a factory striker spring in your slide on your striker spring to figure out what your gauge is reading, because the factory springs are high quality. They test really well and have good consistency. So take a reading of what your striker spring is, your factory striker spring is, okay? Write that number down. Let's say it's pulling at 5 pounds, okay? So you know that your gauge is misreading per se by about 1/2 pound. Then you put in your aftermarket spring that you have a question about, and let's say it's pulling at 5 pounds. Well, then you know that these two striker springs are both going to be rated at the same rating, even though they don't read 5.5 pounds. Then you put this guy in, and it's reading 4 pounds. Well, now you know that this spring is 4.5 pounds. All right, so that is the Tactical Pontoon way right there for how I judge striker springs. And then, boom, if you haven't seen that one, that is on the website. After the snap, you won't go back. Everything else disappears. All right, guys, that was a Tactical Pontoon tip, and we will catch you on the next one.